Assalamualaikum, dear students. Hope you are doing good. Today we are going to study one of the most popular sonnets of William Shakespeare. That is, Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day, Sonnet 18. But before starting with the line-by-line description and analysis of the sonnet, I would like to give you a brief idea about what a sonnet is. A sonnet is a 14-line poem written in iambic pentameter. Iambic pentameter is the using of stressed and unstressed syllables that makes it similar to a heartbeat. We can divide a sonnet into two main types. One is Petrarchan sonnet and another is Shakespearean sonnet. The Petrarchan sonnet, also called as Italian sonnet, perfected by the Italian poet Petrarch, divides the 14 lines into two sections, an 8-line stanza, octave, and 6-line stanza, sestet. Elizabethan sonnet. It's also called as English sonnet or Shakespearean sonnet. This sonnet consisting 3 quatrains and concluding in iambic pentameter. Here we should concentrate on Shakespearean sonnets. William Shakespeare. Let's have a look on his life. William Shakespeare was born in 1564 and he died in 1616. Hailed as the greatest playwright of all times. He was born and brought up in Stratford-upon-Avon in England, a student of the local grammar school in Stratford. Shakespeare did not attend any university, and yet he is one of the most widely read literary figures. He began his career as an actor and playwright in London. He then became a managing partner of King's Men, a leading theatre company in London. Having written some 38 plays, 154 sonnets, 2 long narrative poems, 3 epitaphs, and several other poems, Shakespeare was a prolific artist. His early plays were mostly histories where he dramatized the devastating effects of an ineffectual, fraudulent, and corrupt rule. During his early period, he also wrote some of his greatest comedies like A Midsummer Night's Dream and As You Like It. He then turned to writing tragedies which include the Big Four, Macbeth, Othello, Hamlet, and King Lear. The strength of these plays lies in their captivating plots, complex characters, and unparalleled beauty of language. Today, his plays are being adapted and performed in diverse cultural and political contexts. In 1593 and 1594, when plague compelled theatres to close, Shakespeare published the 2 narrative poems, Venus and Adonis, and the Rape of Lucrece. Subsequently, his sonnets were published in 1609 and since then have generated a considerable amount of speculation whether Shakespeare composed all of them and whether they were a literary exercise or a passionate outburst propelled by an actual experience. As such, some scholars have read these sonnets to understand the extent to which Shakespeare adheres or negates the Elizabethan sonnet fashion. These scholars assess each poem independently and gather facts about its history and background which affect it as a work of art. But then there are other scholars who read them as autobiography. For them, the Dark Lady and the Fair Youth represent real individuals, and the authorial I who addresses them represents Shakespeare himself. For example, Wordsworth, while referring to these sonnets, exclaimed, "With his key, Shakespeare unlocked his heart." Nonetheless, these sonnets are universally acclaimed for their profound delineation of the fragility of life and beauty in the face of the inevitability of death. Sonnet 18. In Sonnet 18, Shakespeare is concerned with the theme of immortality through verse as a more effective way of defying time. The idea of poetry conferring a life beyond life through fame was common enough in Elizabethan sonnet literature. Sir Philip Sidney, in Apology for Poetry, which was published in 1595, wrote that it was common among poets to tell you that they will make you immortal by their verses. Nash stated that men of great calling take it of merit to have their names eternized by poets. And in Sonnet 18, Shakespeare follows this poetical convention and boasts that his sonnets shall be lasting literature, so that the person to whom these are addressed would necessarily attain immortality. But then one wonders whether Shakespeare was apostrophizing himself, since the person concerned is not mentioned at all. Now let us start Sonnet 18 and its analysis. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? In the very first line, William Shakespeare, he tries to compare his beautiful friend with a summer's day. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thee, as you all know, thee, thou, thy means you. These are the archaic words. Shakespeare, he uses the archaic form of English in his works. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? The speaker, William Shakespeare, he poses a question to himself that whether it would be appropriate to compare his beautiful friend with a summer's day. Summer is considered as the pleasant season in England, because summer in England is all about new life springing after the harsh conditions of winter. Now, William Shakespeare, he tries to compare the beautiful friend with a summer's day. Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Then in the second line, William Shakespeare, he says, he answers to his own question that it would not be appropriate to compare my beloved friend with a summer's day, because my beautiful friend is more sweet, he is more soothing, he is temperate. Temperate means he is neither too cold nor too hot. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Rough winds, the strong summer winds, do shake the darling buds of May. It can cause much damage. It can shake, it can move the beautiful, the darling, the newly formed buds of May. And summer's lease hath all too short a date, and the summer season, it is only for a short span of time. The poet here is considering the year as a whole. There are the different seasons in a year, and each season is occupying a specific part of year. According to the poet, each season has taken on lease some part of the year. The duration of summer season is too short, and it passeth very quickly. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines. The eye of heaven here is the sun. Sometimes the sun, it shines very brightly. It shines with all its power, with all its might. And often is his gold complexion dimmed. But sometimes the gold complexion is the brightness of the sun. Sometimes this brightness of the sun, it got diminished. It got decayed by fog, by clouds, or by any change. And every fair from fair sometimes declines. Every fair, everything which is having existence on this earth, on this mundane crust, is going to die, is going to decline. And every fair from fair sometime declines. How beautiful it may be, how fair it may be, but it is certain that his beauty, his this beautiful and vigorous face is going to decay, is going to die by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. Sometimes the beauty of a person gets declined by chance, but sometimes by changing course of nature. Now the question arises, what is the changing course of nature? Changing course of nature is that everything will have to change. Whatever is having existence on this world is going to deprive, it is going to decay, it is going to die. And every fair from fair sometimes declines by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade. Thy eternal summer is unending, which is not going to die. And summer, eternal summer here is the beautiful friend, William Shakespeare's beautiful young friend. But thy eternal summer shall not fade. The beauty of his friend is not going to die. His friend is, his beauty is everlasting. He would never die nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. And he's not going to lose the possession, he's not going to lose the ownership of that beauty which he owes. Nor shall death brag thou wanders in his shade, nor shall death as we'll know that it is all powerful, it is certain, it conquers life. But even this death is not, this death would not be able to claim that it has snatched your beauty away and made you wander in the darkness of its region. Why? When in eternal lines to time thy growest. Why? Because William Shakespeare, he wrote these beautiful lines, these sonnets, these verses. He dedicated these lines to his friend, and these sonnets are going to provide an immortal life to his friend. And it is because of these very sonnets, these very verses, which are going to provide a life even after his death, even after the death of his beloved friend. These lines would give an immortal life to him. Nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. These eternal lines are going to increase the poet's beauty, because William Shakespeare says to his friend that your beauty would increase rather than fade through these sonnets which I am writing as a tribute to you. So long as man can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. So long man can thee. With these sonnets, so long man continue to read these sonnets. These sonnets are going to provide an eternal life, an immortal life to his friend. So long this lives this, and this gives life to thee. These sonnets, these lines, these verses would impart to his friend an immortal life. The poet here tells us about the longevity of art over beauty. This life is temporary. It is going to decay. It is going to die. But this life can be preserved with the help of art. Now, hopefully you have understood the poem, but I would like to go through the lines of the sonnet once again, so that you will get an idea whether you have understood the sonnet fully or not. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's leaves hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed. And every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. Nor shall death prag thou wanders in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long man can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this and this gives life to thee. It was all for today. Have a nice time and take care.